Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy, and today I have something interesting for you, something simple, convenient and nutritious for you and your family. I'm going to be showing you how to make some baked matoke. We're going to pair that with some fried cabbage, and I'm also going to be pairing that with a very, very beautiful detox smoothie that contains carrot, pineapple and oranges. So without further ado, I'll start off by introducing the ingredients in front of us today, and I'll start from the very front. So from here I've got one fresh chili and some minced garlic. I've also got one peeled white onion and some beautiful chunks of pineapple. I've also got some peeled bananas here, some peeled carrot, a bit of salt and pepper at the back here with a bit of olive oil. I've also got a fresh white cabbage, a couple of oranges there, and one particular one that's already segmented, which I'll explain to you later. And last but not least, some beautiful frozen peas. So without further ado, we're going to jump into a small break, and you can definitely take this chance to grab your pens and papers if you're taking notes. And when we come back, I'm going to show you how to turn this very small ingredients into something you and your family will love. So please don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are just tuning in, we were just introducing some ingredients that will definitely make your day today. I'm going to be playing around with some of the most local ingredients, and I'm going to show you how to turn that into a very, very simple and an appetizing dinner for you and your loved ones. So without further ado, I'll start off by grabbing some of my garlic and my chili. I'll also be using a bit of onion at this stage, and last but not least, some cabbage. So we're gonna start off by heating our pan. We're just gonna give that a few seconds to heat, and while that continues, we're going to start off by just slicing our carrot. I'm just going to take both tail bits off, and I'm just going to slice this into some half moons. And I'll do the same for the other piece. Right, easy as that. And we'll also be incorporating some of this beautiful chili. But one thing I recommend, if especially you're going to be serving this for the kids, please remember to take out the chilies, because that will give it a very, very hot sensation, and it might not be likable to them. So if you're not looking for any heat, particularly from the chilies, I always insist take the seeds out beforehand and then just proceed to cook just with the chili seedless. Right, so be sure to take off all the chilies and then just proceed to cut that into some thin strips. Right, simple as that. So next up, we're gonna start off by adding a bit of oil to our pan. And into that, we are going to add our white onions and about a tablespoon of some minced garlic. And we're gonna turn up the heat to about medium. Just give that a quick toss. Just allow the ingredients to just fragrance a little bit, and just for the onions to colorize. Next off, I'm just going to start off with the cabbage, and all we are going to do now is chop just about half of this piece into some nice thin strips. And for cabbage particularly, I know most of you have very many techniques of how to chop cabbage. Some of you prefer to chop it upright like this and just do it with your knife like that. I particularly like to use the board because it actually gives you a bit more grip, allows you to actually work faster, and limits you from actually cutting yourself with your knife. So I'm just going to finish off the beautiful cabbage. We can use about a third of that. So on the pan, just toss those together. And once you're starting to get that beautiful color there, go in with your cabbage. And all you're left to do now is just toss that slightly. And just to give that a bit of color, I also have some carrot here. And I'm just going to start off by taking a small side of, just a bit of the side, just to be able to give me some stability. And all I'm going to do is proceed to do the same for all 4 sides. Cut those into some nice thin strips like that. And all you're left to do now is to julienne the rest of your carrot. So just repeat the same all the way to the very end, ensuring that you get some very beautiful julienne cuts that should be able to cook in the shortest time possible and with the least of ease. Right, so carrots in, give your pan a bit of a shake, toss slightly. And this particular technique works also very well if you actually have a wok with you at home. So if you do own one, you can actually use that in place of a frying pan. You might actually get a very good crisp and beautiful color from it. So to that I will add 1 whole chopped chili, seeded, and just toss that a few more times. And all you're left to do now is just season that slightly. Bit of salt, just for taste, and a bit of some freshly grounded black peppercorn, just for a bit of the heat. Now give it about 3-4 more tosses. Now you can actually take that off the heat. So I'm just gonna grab a nice big plate. Let's give that one nice final toss. And onto the plate your cabbage goes. And we can actually set that aside for a few seconds. Now next up, I'm also going to be showing you the smoothie, and we're just going to go with the bananas last. So I'm just going to make some space quickly. And now, as I had mentioned earlier, remember I have some orange here that has been segmented, but I am also going to show you how exactly I got to that particular stage. So I'm just going to grab a fresh knife. And as you can see, these are just some segmented oranges, just peeled. And very simple technique to achieve that. First of all, start by taking just a nice chunk of that tail end off. Turn your orange around and do the same thing on the other side. You can discard those pieces. All you're left to do now is, using your knife, just go around the sides of the orange, making sure to get that white membrane off, just leaving you with a nice, beautiful, bright orange color on the sides there. So as you can see, it only takes that little effort to just turn a whole orange into just segmented oranges like that. And this can go into your blender very easily, and they blend very simply. So I'm just going to grab a bowl here, and I'm just going to do the same for the rest of the pieces. So just continue to peel those to the very end. And for the last piece, do just the same. So I'm using imported oranges. These are particularly sweeter than the local variety. You can actually use the local ones just the same way, but do remember that the bitterness in the oranges might actually deter you from having the same quality. So I would recommend, if you're going to use some of the local oranges, give it a bit of a taste, or rather buy one of each and actually look at the differences. You'll actually be able to pick your own preference yourselves. Right, so just to finish that off, be sure to take off as much of that white membrane as you can, because that is what actually gives the bitterness of the fruit. And now all you're left to do is just clear that, and now you're ready to go in with your smoothie. So very, very simply, I'm just going to grab a jug on the side, and into the jug we'll just start by just cutting our oranges into halves. And one particular trick I will share with most of you today, if you actually looking for a very good consistency in your blender with purees or fruits particularly, always take your time to cut them into the smallest chunks. Always take the bits that you don't need, like the skin, the seeds, and some of that white pulp that gives it a bitterness, and it will always blend into something you will enjoy. Alright, so oranges in. Next up we have a bit of pineapple. Just going to leave about 3 pieces in there. Remember, it's only advisable to fill your blender just until it gets to the top. Never be tempted to squeeze anything in there, because it will actually give strain on your blade at the bottom, and you could actually lose your blender eventually. So I'm just going to just fill it up lightly like that, and as you can see, I have the oranges at the bottom which contain more juice. So those will actually blend a little faster than the pineapples will. So straight onto the blender. Always allow it to just allow everything to sink to the bottom, and then try again. Simple as that. Take it out, and now all you're left to do is give it a taste. I particularly like to insist on trying out the taste, especially for acidity, if you're working with anything in relation to lemons, oranges, or pineapple. So just give it a quick taste. It's not as bitter, it's actually got a beautiful sweetness to it. And I always insist, please don't discard the juice that's left over in the bowl. Just add it in there. And now last but not least, we are going to add also a bit of carrot. And as I mentioned earlier, the smaller the chunks, the quicker they blend. So just cut them into 1-inch dices. Throw that into your blender, and that should be now ready to go. Right, so our smoothie is now done. It's got a nice, beautiful, rich thickness to it. So we can actually just keep that on the side. And last but not least, I do have something else that I am going to show you as well. And this is basically just the last and almost the final process, which is basically your green bananas. I'm just going to clean up my surface quickly. And next off, I'm basically now going to show you a very simple technique of how to bake your green bananas. And I'll start off by grabbing them on the sides. And very simply start off by draining the water that they were soaked in. And very, very handy kitchen towel. I particularly like to grab about 2 of those sheets. And then just using a bowl, drop those in there, drop your bananas inside, and just give it a shake. And that basically allows you to dry them off really quickly without using your hands and contaminating the food. And once you're done, all you need to do is just lift the kitchen towel off, and all you're left with is some very, very beautiful dried bananas. Be sure to always also clean your bowl on the inside just to get rid of any excess. And all you have now is a beautiful dried banana that can easily be seasoned. So I'm just going to start off with a bit of olive oil. I'm gonna add just a little bit of salt. And remember, you can actually be able to grill bananas just as they are raw. You can actually also slice them and just fry them directly, and they'll give you some very, very beautiful banana chips. But I have a bit of trick I like to use. I like to use just a little bit of turmeric powder. And what that does is that it actually gives the bananas a very beautiful, rich color. So I'm not going to even use a spoon. I'm just going to shake those in the bowl like that. Right, simple as that. Next off, all you need to do now is prepare your baking tray. And I'm using a non-stick baking tray for this particular reason. If you do own some glass bowls that are oven proof, they'll work just the same. So very simply, nice drizzle of olive oil in there. Use just your fingertips just to spread a bit of that oil on the base. This basically allows to make sure that it actually makes sure that you don't have any of those bananas sticking to the bottom. And actually, even when the point where the bananas come into contact with the pan, it is going to give them a bit of color. So very, very simply, transfer those onto a bowl. And all you're left to do now is move this into a preheated oven. My oven is already hot. So I'm going to be baking this for about 15 to 20 minutes at between 180 degrees to 200. And we're just going to throw them in right in the center rack there. And all I'm going to do now is set my timer for about 20 minutes. And we're basically going to just take them out immediately after that, combine it with all the ingredients that we have in front of you, and I'll show you just a very simple way to finish that off. But before we do so, we are going to jump into a short commercial break, so please don't touch that dial. We'll be back in a short while. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are just tuning in, we've just been working on some very, very simple dishes right before the break. And now we're just about to get done. But first off, we'll start by taking out some bananas that we had been grilling in the oven. And I'm just going to take those off. Just allow those to cool off on the side there. And while those cool off, I'm just going to show you just a simple way to finish off this particular simple dish. And I'm going to start off by showing you 2 ways you can play around with a bit of that piece of pineapple you have maybe in the fridge, or maybe it's just sitting around. I particularly like to refresh my cabbage this particular way. So I'm just going to take a bit of that skin off. And all I'm going to do is just slice that into some very, very thin chunks. So about 5 pieces. And all we are going to do now is, first of all, get our pan going. And now you'll need some very few ingredients for this. Remember, we had some cabbage that we sauteed earlier. I've also got some peas here that we're going to incorporate. And last but not least, the beautiful pineapple. But while the pan heats up, I am going to show you a very, very simple technique of finishing off a very, very simple smoothie such as this. And very simply, I'll start by just refreshing it in the blender. Remember that particularly is just to make sure to get that liquid that's settled at the bottom with the pulp at the top. Make sure it's always just nicely mixed up before you pour it out, or you can actually use a spoon for that matter. And all you're left to do is just pour that into your glass like that, and just reserve the rest for later. And simply just finish off with a bit of garnish. So I particularly like to use a slice of pineapple like that. And I actually like to use some of those beautiful pineapple stalks that you actually get just before you peel it off. And these really make for some very good garnish. So that is a very, very simple and easy way to do it. Now, just to divert your attention this way, I do have a hot pan going here. And to that, I'm just going to add my frozen peas. Just give that a bit of a saute. Remember, that particular technique actually allows your peas to really freshen up, especially if they are frozen. So please don't be shy of the fire. But if you are not able to actually do it the same way I did, you can just mix it with a spoon. It will still give you the same effect. So very simply, just the peas in there. Tiny bit of salt for seasoning. Give it a quick toss. And all you're left to do now is just add your bananas in one at a time. Just take that away. So basically just give that a quick toss. Remember, this is just to coat them. And now, last but not least, your cabbage. And all you're left to do now is just toss that to reheat. And that's all there is to it. Just kill the heat, throw your pineapple chunks in there, and just toss slightly, just to combine all your ingredients. So very simply, I'm just going to grab a plate and my tongs, and I'm just going to show you a very, very simple way to plate that. So I'm just going to start off by just assembling my bananas right around the base of the plate. Right, so once you have your bananas seated right in the center like that, very simply, all you need to do now is just scoop all the ingredients right over the top. And just always, as I said, always just have your pan seated right in the middle. Let your hands and the tongs or the spoon that you're plating with just do the rest. And that should give you a very simple and easy presentation like that. I like to finish that off with a bit of olive oil for flavor. And ladies and gentlemen, matoke with fried cabbage, peas, and your pineapple carrot smoothie. Just to finish that off, piece of straw always makes it classy. My name is Chef Andy, and I've definitely enjoyed doing this with you today. I hope you're gonna be tuning in for more episodes where we continue to show you every bit of trick that you can be able to use in your home, with 3 particular points to note, which is nutrition, which is cost, and also, as I said earlier on, efficiency and ease. I hope you've had fun today. I've had fun myself. I'm about to go and enjoy this beautiful meal. And until the next episode, I see you all. It's been a pleasure being with you today. Thank you for watching the dinner guide on BrandPlus TV. And I'm definitely going to be enjoying to see you next time. Until next time, bye-bye.